All right, today we're going to talk about student conferences in terms of putting our performance into grade language. I have Madison here with us today who's going to be modeling what an effective and important teacher-student conference looks like. One of the things that I want to be sure to show you ahead of time is Madison's preparation. You're going to notice that there's quite a few gaps missing in her performance right here. And you can tell on the back that her 3 Ps have not been filled out. We have additional documentation that supports this, and Madison has chosen to bring all of her evidence. So it doesn't necessarily mean that writing is very important, and it means how you want to demonstrate or what kind of evidence you can prove towards your progress in learning. Remember, it's all about the process and how we think about ourselves as a learner. And we may not be mastery yet, but we want to identify that growth mindset. How can we make ourselves better? So Madison, I'm glad that you're here with us today. We're going to start with your 3 Ps.
Okay.
And I'm going to go ahead and take some notes while you're doing your 3 Ps. If you could share with us what some of those Ps look like, and then we'll go ahead and talk about your standards.
Okay. Well, for participation, I can comprehend nonfiction text. For instance, 70 years later, a veteran visit Japan can recall days as prisoners of war. Like I did all of that in my Socratic seminar. I have that here with me. That was my notes that I took. That I like highlighted stuff. I put like a lot of time towards it.
Okay, can you continue with participation?
I can comprehend 8th grade stories independently and successfully. For instance, The Impossible Knife of Memory. I engage in class discussions in the Socratic seminar with body language and eye contact. I have my paper that I used that Gabe Spencer graded me on. It says that I did most of that often and well. I cite evidence while making questions for Socratic seminars also. That's my point of view. I use Haley's, I understand that because I use Haley's point of views, why she does the things she does in the story. In my book talks, I have questions in my notebook for that, and Socratic seminar. That's all I have for participation.
Okay, tell me a little bit more about your progress. So from the beginning of the year until now, what kind of progress have you made as a learner?
Well, I can determine the main idea of The Impossible Knife of Memory. I have determined the main idea of 70 years later in Socratic seminar, my questions. I struggled with the main idea before this unit. When I in the book, it's helped me when our book clubs and stuff, I asked them questions to help me understand the story. And then how to create questions and connect with them. I was using I was creating my ACE and with my book club and by myself. I have that here. It's lengthy. And I understand perspectives and point of view in The Impossible Knife of Memory, how you have to think why someone is doing that. You just ask yourself questions and stuff. And then, like I said, viewpoints and participation, I know how to do that. And I use that with Haley's story and Finn and stuff.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about your performance in class.
Okay, well I didn't make one, I just can tell you this.
Okay.
My performance in class is my blog. Hannah and I had made our blog, and it was okay, but I felt like we could have made it better. And I felt like I did my part during that because I looked up questions and I asked other people what would you want to see in this blog? How would you what do you need answered from this book? And I looked and I got a whole bunch of questions that I know, and then I found the video and I felt that it helped our topic out, brought it all together. And like vocabulary has increased. Like I know, like for instance, like in the book Impossible Knife from Memory, I understand like a lot of the words. Like my what's it called? My reading like percentage is like low, so like I had to like comprehend all of the hard words and stuff. So I got that down.
What kind of strategies did you use because you knew reading was an obstacle for you?
I like broke the words into pieces, and I had to read over a page like a little bit. And even though like I read slow and like I read like a page a minute, like I like make sure I understand it, and if I don't understand it, then I like read it over again.
So it sounds like you have some strategies in place that you
Yeah.
could use in no matter what class that we're in.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back and talk about your reading literature standards. Those are your fiction standards that start at the very beginning of your assessment. Let's talk about some strengths that you have as a fiction reader. Out of those standards, what do you suppose that you're really strong in right now?
I'm thinking like this first page.
Yeah.
I really like the book clubs. I like come there and I'm like focused with like questions, like really good questions, and I like answer the questions with my group.
Okay, so for example, when we determine the main idea, when we tend to talk about these questions in our book club, we're kind of pulling out main ideas that happen in the text.
Yeah.
Would you say that that's a strength for you right now?
Yeah.
Okay. What would be some other standards that you find to be fairly strong?
Citing the evidence from the text, because I'm really good at like using page numbers and like exactly what they're saying, because that helps me.
And when did you do that?
Socratic seminar, and like our book talk too, because like that helps them like they flip through the pages and seeing what I'm talking about.
Okay. Give me some other things that you feel are your strengths as a fiction reader.
Probably point of view too. Like
Okay.
I have like the character chart and stuff like that I use often, and like some people in study hall, like I give that to them for like them to understand when they're answering the questions.
Okay. Tell me some things that you want to improve on as a fiction reader. So,
Probably comprehending 8th grade text.
okay. What other things? You haven't identified anything about setting, plot, or summary yet.
Probably
Are there some areas in there that we need to work on this year?
summary, because like I make it too long. I don't like get it to the point. I have like a whole page,
Okay.
and maybe plot too.
Okay. Did that timeline help you with plot
Yeah.
in terms of understanding major points
Yeah,
throughout the
but it
text?
was kind of hard though for our like hour, because everything was already on there.
That's true. That was kind of a stretch.
Yeah, someone could basically help me with that, because I didn't know how to do it.
That's okay. Relying on other people is a good strategy as well. Is there anything else that you feel that you might need to work on throughout this quarter, throughout this year? Connections? What about making connections?
I feel like I'm pretty strong on that, because 70, I don't know what it's called, the Impossible Knife from Memory, and then the 70 years later thing, like I'm good at that, because I like went and I read through all of it, and I understand like the difference and like the connections between both of them.
Okay. So let's talk about nonfiction, which I believe is the next standard. So like reading informational texts. What are some things that you feel are really strong?
Probably
You feel really confident about doing when it comes to nonfiction text.
evidence from the text,
Okay.
main idea,
Okay.
the importance of certain paragraphs within the text.
When would you have done that?
When we were reading 70 Years Later and The Impossible Knife from Memory. So
I'm
basically-
hearing that our Socratic seminar piece from our practice part last week, that
yeah,
article
that was
really,
like helpful. That was like really helpful.
really
from
drove
today.
home some of those ideas for you, or some of
Yeah.
the standards. That's good.
That's basically what I wrote on all of this because that helped me a lot.
Okay. So what are some things that you want to work on as a reader for nonfiction?
Different viewpoints.
Okay.
And I think that's it.
What about like making connections? We go from one nonfiction piece of text to the next. Like our interviewers could be an example of different nonfiction pieces of text, right?
Yeah, that'd be fine too.
So are you labeling that a strength or something you want to work on?
Something I want to work on.
Okay.
And then probably I'm good at main idea, but like sometimes if I like get flustered if I have like more like than 2 pieces of things, I have to figure it out.
Okay.
So I get confused because I think like I'm reading and then I'm like, one, that's the book, but it's really the other book. Like,
Yeah.
I mix them up. So.
Okay. So let's move on to writing. You had both writing informatively, and then you also had a little touch of narrative writing threaded in there. Can you tell me some strengths that you've had as a writer? I know that you've referenced your blogs quite a bit. I can sense some pride in your blogging. Can you tell me some strengths that you've demonstrated as a writer this quarter?
Vocabulary, because I've always struggled with vocabulary.
Okay.
And then like how my paper is organized, because I feel like it's pretty good. Like the Q&A is what I used.
Okay.
So, so like what I struggle with, or transitions, I'm good at those too.
Okay.
And then like what I like struggle with is like concrete details in writing.
Okay. Do you understand what those are?
Not really.
Okay. If you were to write a piece on PTSD, there are specific concrete details that make up that disorder. Therapy, medicine,
Yeah, I know what that means.
levels, things like that. Those are concrete details. We know those to be true and to be fact and to be solid.
Okay.
Does that make a difference in your thinking?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to work more with that throughout the second half of this quarter
Okay.
because we'll be working with more nonfiction text. So that will be something that you and I can work on, and be sure to advocate for yourself that you're going to need some feedback on that as we move forward this semester.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. What about introductions and conclusions? Do you feel like you need help with that still, or you want to improve on that still?
Probably introductions.
Okay. Conclusions are okay so far?
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically restate the stuff that I've already said.
Okay. I think that your quality of work definitely shines within our class, and I think that I see a lot of pride in your work. And one of the reasons I say that so willingly of you, Madison, is because you take the risk of it's okay to fail. And whether you come out and say it like, I just want to try this. I know I might have to redo it. I know I might have to revise it. But what I see from you is that you're okay to try things. And that's a big thing that some kids still have that disconnect with. So I really applaud you for being that risk taker. In terms of your participation, I think that you're a great participator. You're a great voice in our class. A lot of people look to you in terms of leadership and organization, whether you give yourself that credit or not. So if you were to take a look at your reading, there are lots of things that you find strong, and there are some things that we want to work on. Same goes down here with nonfiction. There are many things that you identified as strengths and other areas of improvement. What would you give your reading grade so far for this quarter? How would you put that in letter language?
I had a hard time figuring out this quarter because I feel like it's not like our other quarter, like a midterm, because like I feel like we didn't do as much as what we did, but we really did a lot.
Yeah.
I'm thinking towards like a B or an A, or even I'm thinking like a B.
Okay. Why would you say B over A?
Well, because like I could have tried harder than what I've done.
Okay. So how do you expect to move forward from that for these last 4.5 weeks?
Like put more effort towards like everything. Like I
Okay.
feel like I slumped more than I did last quarter.
Okay. So here's what I propose. Because I see a lot more strengths than I do weaknesses, or I should say areas to improve, I would agree with the A right now. But I would say for these next 4 weeks, it's going to be harder for you to earn that A if you want it for the quarter, unless you show more of that effort that you're speaking of.
Okay.
Does that make sense?